Hi there, welcome to the latest news in the Presgrove case in regard to official court documents, papers, protective order, and an official subpoena by Noah's family, etc. I'm going to be reading and sharing it with you today, giving you my raw thoughts on the matter and what it means for the case, highlighting that there is movement in the right direction, but also trying to figure out why it's being done, and what does it mean for the case overall, considering how long it's gone on for and the so-called material along the way. What else is in the background? Is it more complex than what some have made it out to be? Has it been underestimated? A simple death? Maybe not. A simple accident? Maybe not. A simple murder? Maybe not. There could be a bit of a crossover, an overlap, all kinds of stuff going on. Whilst looking at those details, slideshows of documents today, my raw reactions, I'll provide it from the point of view such as Michael Fask has, credit to him, just summarising it in more simplistic terms and examples given of, I guess, discovery-based evidence and what it could possibly mean. If I can think of any examples myself, you could think of some too, and as well, your raw reaction is welcome. So feel free to leave your comments, thoughts, questions down below under the video. It does help with spreading awareness, starting new discussions and points of views. And for those that are present during the live premiere, welcome back. Not been covering this case for some time because naturally I transitioned on to Kenny Veach, which, let me tell you something, from my experience with the Dylan Rounds case and more so the Noah Presgrove case, while some people like to say that when I'm most open with perspective, holistically, that's supposedly when I'm most biased, which makes no sense. Well, despite all that, what I've applied in the Noah Presgrove case, I've actually applied in the Kenny Veach case, from true crime to a missing person mystery in the desert. And I'll tell you something, back when I was covering Kenny Veach, I'd be making one video a week, 2-3 videos a month. There was only so much to work with, but there was only so much to think and pick up on. With the experience of true crime and dealing with all the different outcomes and possibilities, it's now led to a massive influx, never done, never seen before on my channel and just in general out there, almost making a video every single day on a case that dates back 11 plus years. So there's been a revival, new material, new ideas, looking back at old things, picking up on stuff which has not been picked up on before, the whole focus on language, wording and understanding. What do people mean by what they say? And then in terms of their actions, what they do. Does it add up? Does it align? Not always. And upon reflection in the Noah Presgrove case, more so the community, we've seen the problems, we've seen the dysfunctions, we've seen the hypocrisy, etc. And what's happened on top of everything is there's been some very serious claims made, so I will have to respond back to that. Be sure to stick around for some of the context. Context is always needed, and as well, the response by myself. I'll do that later on. We need to get to some of the more important stuff first and the latest news. If you are present and you are interested in, like what I said, the Kenny Veach case, or you want to catch up on previous videos of the Noah Presgrove case, or you coming in for the very first time, crossing over communities, you can find it all available. Top right corner of the screen where the I symbol is up there, 2 playlists, lots of videos and coverage. Just remember, whilst I've been doing other stuff and not covering, in other words, not to the same extent keeping it alive like how people could on YouTube or on other platforms, some people, I'm guessing, have been very happy about it. Just like the quote, roughly, by Justin Roy. Oh, I wish he would stop making videos on the Noah Presgrove case. I wish he would just step back. Yeah. So a creator that single-handedly and Solo covers the case specifically on YouTube, keeping it alive single-handedly, is ordered to step down, and that's what's really needed. That sounds counterproductive in a way. You could argue would Justin say that to somebody else, such as a bigger creator, a bigger channel? I don't think so, because you'd be looking up and not looking in line. So there'll be a bit of obedience, there'll be all kinds of stuff going on, but more about that later. Feel free to share your live thoughts in the live chat on the right side of the screen, comments down below. And if you want to support the channel, there is a PayPal link and channel membership in the pinned comments, the comments section. The order of how we'll do it today, we're going to go through the documents first, read, analyze, summarize, and then give you my afterthoughts, and then go beyond. With that being said, let's begin now. This, what you're looking at, was filed by District Court, Stephens County, Oklahoma, November 19th, 2025 by Melody Harper Clark. So we've heard that name already before. Then below, case number, Honorary Lawrence Wheeler. I'm going to read most out what's on screen, might as well. If it is hard to see, I'll try and zoom in for you, make it a little bit easier. So the estate of Noah Nichols, and then you got defendants' names all listed down here, as we've seen before. Avery Joe Howard, Carter Combs, Jack Newton, Caleb Newton, Johnny Trout Wilcoxon Jr., Jr., Stevie Howard, Logan Jernigan, John Jane Doe's, A to Z, and Val Patrol. Now, I can't remember which people. I know it was Johnny Trout Wilcoxon at least, that when it came to serving and those papers being sent out by mail or in other ways, and some people hadn't been, got yet, well, however you word it, and there was that 180-day extension period. Johnny Trout Wilcoxon was, done, ticked, and maybe another individual. Is it Logan Jernigan still that needs to be seen to? But besides the defendants, we need to focus in on this protective order for LE, law enforcement documents. By agreement between the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and the estate of Noah Nichols, the court enters the following protective order to govern documents produced from OHP and OSBI in the above styled case. Introduction, scope, and applicability. This protective order governs the confidentiality, use, and disclosure of materials and information produced in discovery in this action, including but not limited to investigative and law enforcement materials produced by Oklahoma Department of Public Safety and the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. These materials may contain sensitive, privileged, or otherwise confidential information. This protective order applies to all parties, their counsel, consultant, experts, witnesses, agents, and other persons authorized to receive or review confidential materials. It further applies to any non-parties producing information pursuant to subpoena or discovery request in this matter. There's 2 more pages. Zoom out just for a second. Over here. Confidentiality designation. Start from the top. Confidential information shall be marked or identified as confidential by the producing entity or where produced by DPS or OHP deemed confidential law enforcement material. This designation applies to all copies, extracts, notes, summaries derived from the original materials. All such materials shall be used solely for the purpose of this litigation and shall not be published, disclosed to the general public, or disseminated outside of the proceedings in this case, except as expressly permitted herein. So, whilst there is movement forwards in a good way, as for the general public, they're going to be left in the dark, and maybe you'd expect that anyway. But, during this process and onwards, there can be walls of silence. And, the negative of that is, whilst it might seem like there's action taking place in the background, on a surface level, people are going to be twiddling their thumbs, and what's going to come out from that? Drama, grasping straws, erratic behaviour, is what tends to happen. It's what occurred within the Dylan Rounds case. I'm just giving you a heads up as to what to expect with time. Confidential materials may be freely used by counsel and the parties in depositions, hearings, and trial proceedings. Such use shall not constitute a waiver of confidentiality. The parties and their counsel shall take reasonable measures to protect the confidentiality of these materials in open court and to prevent unnecessary public exposure or reproduction of the same. Authorised persons and permitted use. Access to confidential materials is limited to counsel of record and their employees, the parties and their authorised representatives, expert witnesses or consultants retained for this case, the court and its staff, stenographers and videographers involved in the proceedings and witnesses during depositions or hearings where necessary for testimony. All persons receiving confidential materials are bound by this order and may not disclose or use such materials for any purpose outside this litigation. Confidential materials may be discussed, shown, or introduced as exhibits in depositions, hearings, or trial, subject to evidentiary rules and orders of the court. Production of confidential law enforcement materials by DPS and OHP. Oklahoma Department of Public Safety and the Oklahoma Highway Patrol are producing investigative records and related materials pursuant to this protective order and the discovery authority recognized. These may include investigative reports, witness statements, audio or video recordings, photographs, autopsy materials, forensic reports, internal communications, and other law enforcement records relating to the investigation of Noah Presgrove. The estate maintains that the Discovery Code, and consistent with the Oklahoma Supreme Court's decision, that OHP and OSBI may produce otherwise confidential investigative materials under this protective order without violating statutory or regulatory confidentiality provisions. OHP and OSBI maintain that no Oklahoma appeals court has applied to the law enforcement documents, which are often confidential under Oklahoma law. Right, okay, bit of a mouthful. And what's that down there? It's not limited by, I think we've always seen that, yeah. And then the final page, zoom in here. Instead of having the court reach a final determination on this argument, the OHP and OSBI agreed to produce these documents as the posture of the investigation is closed, rather than pursuant to McKeeson. The estate does not object to withdrawing its position as long as the documents are produced. The court therefore authorises the production of these materials subject to the protective order. All such materials shall remain confidential, be used solely for the purposes of this litigation, and shall not be disclosed publicly or to non-parties except as necessary for depositions, hearings, or trial. Filing and use at trial. If confidential materials are filed with the court, they shall be filed under seal in accordance with applicable rules. During hearings or trial, counsel may use confidential materials as exhibits or for examination of witnesses. The party shall take reasonable measures to preserve confidentiality and to limit unnecessary public disclosure. Quite tight-lipped and sealed, so there probably is going to be a wave of silence, not really going to see or hear much, which is what it is. Disputes and inadvertent disclosure. Any party disputing a confidentiality designation must confer in good faith with the producing party. If the dispute cannot be resolved, the objecting party may seek judicial review. Pending resolution, the material shall remain subject to the protective order. Inadvertent production of privileged or confidential information does not waiver any privilege or protection. Upon notice of inadvertent disclosure, the receiving party must return or destroy the affected materials and certify compliance. Continuing jurisdiction. The District Court of Stephens County retains jurisdiction to ensure this protective order following the termination of the litigation. It is so ordered the 19th day of November 2025. That's going to be interesting to see how things go. I believe we've got a bit of a summary here, roughly, from Michael Fezquez. This order, signed by Judge Lawrence Wheeler, allows OHP, OSBI to finally produce investigative materials from Noah's case, which can include investigative records, witness statements, audio and video recordings, photographs, internal communications, autopsy materials, forensic reports. So, any examples which I could think of on the spot, whether we've seen it or not. More importantly, what we've not seen is what's most important, and what we may never see until it's all resolved. So witness statements. Who are the witnesses? If this is all in regard to just defendants, well, but you can include witnesses who aren't defendants. So, like, would it give Caden Pressy's statements, the background interviews, the interviews before anyone became a defendant, before the wrongful death suit? You remember? You know, with Caden Pressy, one was basically leaked, revealed, but then Caden Pressy's original interview, and then the other party goes and their interviews, what they know of, what they remember, comparing and contrasting, because, you know, on a small scale with Caden Pressy, we saw extreme inconsistencies and really weird situations, but more importantly, that can apply to other party goers, which we never got to see because the other interviews weren't leaked or revealed. So there might have been other party goers that were, you know, a bit all over the place in what they believe, what they were saying at one point compared to another. So, yeah, interview-based, statements written, vocal, audio. It would have been interesting in the earlier days if we had that access, which wasn't possible, but if we did, let's just put it this way. If other people and the material was available as for these statements and the interviews, audio or video based, then it wouldn't come across as a Caden Pressy witch hunt, one-sided. It would come across as a holistic review of different people. But you can only work publicly with what you've got, and obviously not everybody sees it that way. But yeah, more so the video recordings, whether that be an interview, whether that be video recordings at the property at the house, dash cameras, body cameras by police, to, you know, visually look at the body language and behaviour by people. Of course, once again, we wouldn't be able to do it ourselves, but it's what could be looked into. How did they appear at the time? Did someone appear distressed, worried? Was somebody looking reluctant, subdued? I mean, when it's come to some interviews in the past with the Dylan Rounds case, and I've analysed some body language, I got that correct. Sometimes it's not always easy to analyse body language or tone of text. It just depends on the material you're working with. Some people are just very good at hiding stuff. But how good are partygoers truly good at hiding, if anything, in this case? You let me know. As for photographs, well, that can apply to the scene, the highway. Any photos taken of the party house and inside, you'd hope to think so. Why not? Give a bit more of a perspective of other rooms as well. But once again, we don't have access to it. But if we did, I don't know, just understanding the perceptions, the points of views of certain events, times, supposed times, where people were in different rooms. That's why at one point I was talking about a floor plan, blueprint plan at the party house, the different rooms, the names of the rooms, where things are located at. I think that all could have helped, but we didn't really get that. Internal communications, the autopsy, well, we've seen the autopsy. However, other people have said there's a deeper report. There's additional material which just wasn't included on the public report. And if it does run deeper and they could only share so much, well then, might raise a few eyebrows for some. The forensic reports too, such as from the scene and onwards. Would the results have been any different if the ME medical examiner got down to Oklahoma Terrell quicker, because originally they were supposed to be coming on down, but then got sidetracked and supposedly went on to Lawton, I think, to do something else. Zoom in. Oh, hold on. On the next slide, in regard to this protective order, Michael summarised saying that this proves, all in all, that Noah's case was never simple. There is extensive evidence, and probably a lot of it which we've not seen ourselves. Fair enough. The investigation was not as transparent as claimed. The estate's legal pressure is working, as in the family pushing for justice and pushing for answers and additional material. The truth is moving, and the system is being forced to comply. This is why pressure matters, it's why public demand matters, and why the petition matters. Well, in terms of just the general public, the demands there, the influence it can have, that's true. It happened in the Dylan Rounds case when the victim's mother, Candice Cooley, wanted change in terms of how the police were dealing with stuff, the LE, and some things taken to court. A little bit of pressure here and there, kind of got some things moving at a point. There can be some positives from it. Beside that, because now the agencies involved cannot withhold evidence, the estate will receive full investigative files, the courts are actively supervising disclosure, and the legal team will finally get to review what really happened to Noah in the early hours of Monday morning. I mean, when it comes to, the discovery, the investigative material along the way, any of these examples here, would any of it date back to Friday? Well, Friday wasn't a day Noah was at the party and hadn't died then. It was like the beginning of the party, you could call it. It never really gets talked about. There were people there, some at least the birthday girl, the host, the ones that are living there, they had been present. Anyone else coming on down? Not too sure. Kane Pressey hinted that he was there on a Friday. As for anyone else, kind of unknown of, Kane Pressey also mentioned that he didn't want to talk about Friday. So it just feels like, out of all the days at the party which have been documented to some extent by partygoers and maybe beyond, if it's upon reflection, with audio, video recordings, interviews, internal communication, what about what went down on the Friday? Will any of that exist? Photos, videos from the party? Witnesses, reports on who was there and what went down on a Friday? If this case is supposedly deeper than expected and it can trace back a few days beforehand, was there anything dark or sinister going on Friday? Was there anything whatsoever? These are just general questions, okay? I just feel like some stuff hasn't been focused on enough. I mean, in fairness, when Michael suggests that Noah's case was never simple, I mean, just a small example to back that up. The whole side-by-side rollover had its contradictions, confusion, clear details weren't given, a guessing game of how many people, passengers, and who were they, trying to narrow it down. No one could give names public, or whether it's friends to Noah, strangers, or straight up Texas boys. It was like a process of elimination. Why a smaller scale event from the party, which wasn't the be all and end all for Noah's death? Why is it so complicated to understand? But then equally, you could say the situation with Georgia and Breeley leaving around or just before 2 a.m. on Monday, why was that such a debacle when it came to Alicia Lee or Alicia Pressey and Melissa, the mother to Georgia? I mean, like, the timing of when they got down to the highway, whether they were there first or later, turning back round 3:15, but it couldn't have been, it would have been before that. It's just an absolute mess. And why does it have to be that way? Why does the side-by-side roller event have to be so complex? You add it up and then you think, as a bigger picture, yeah, the case isn't simple. maybe along the way some people within the case, defendants or not, have made it more complex. I mean, as said, it doesn't just apply to defendants, it applies to non-defendants but party-goers, or parents to certain party-goers that made it more complex, adding their own words and being mouthpieces, contradictions, hypocrisy, double standards, piss-poor communication. It just adds layers upon layers of just mess. And even like the non-official material, the claims, the disinformation or misinformation, when you refer back to like on Facebook, just in general, and some maybe leaking over elsewhere, like Reddit, that add layers of complexity to the case as well. It's been accumulative with time and by a range of different people in the case and just on and around the community. Now, beside that, we've got this notice of a subpoena and Fowler District Court, November 19th to 2025, Honorary Lawrence Wheeler, mentions the names once again, and lower down, the estate of No Nichols, notice of a subpoena for production of documents from the OSBI. Right, so the last time I did some coverage, there was some mention of a subpoena being granted, but now we've got this notice of a subpoena. I guess what, more official? 2, all parties of record and the OSBI, you, OSBI, are hereby required pursuant to produce the documents electronically, stored information, objects or other tangible evidence specified in attachment A to Nichols notice and subpoena OSBI. Okay. Wow, there's about 7 pages or so. I'll just go through some of them. I think one of the pages I didn't include just because of YouTube guidelines and all the restrictions there. It wasn't anything important then. Right. What's this? God Love Law Firm. All right. Or via electronic delivery in regard to the material on or before December 11th, 2025 at 5 p.m. December 11th is the deadline. Will it be followed through? It should be. If additional time is needed for production, please contact the undersigned counsel. I mean, there's always that chance of delays. We've already seen it before in other areas. No testimony is to be taken at this time. This subpoena is authorised pursuant to Oklahoma statutory under subsection A4 of said statute as an officer of the court and attorney authorised to practice law in Oklahoma may issue and sign a subpoena on behalf of any Oklahoma state court. Subsection 204 provides, in order to allow objections to the production of documents and things to be filed, you should not produce them until the date specified in the subpoena. If an objection is filed, until the court rules out on that objection. Subsection provides that a person responding to a subpoena to produce documents shall produce them as they're kept in the usual course of business, or shall organise and label them to correspond with the categories in the demand. Subsection allows the person upon whom this subpoena is served a period of 14 days after service of the subpoena, or before the time specified for compliance, if less than 14 days, to serve upon the party or attorney designated in a subpoena a written objection to inspection or copying of any or all designated materials. And then subsection provides that when information subject to a subpoena is withheld on a claim that is privileged or subject to protection as trial preparation materials, the claim shall be made expressly and supported by a description of the nature of the documents or communications not produced sufficient for the demanding party to contest the claim. Subsection provides that failure of any person without adequate excuse to obey a subpoena served upon them may be deemed contempt of the court from which the subpoena was issued, found not under penalty of law. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand as an officer of the court on this 11th day of November 2025, pursuant to Oklahoma. Okay. Let's move on to the next page. There's page 4. Where's page 3 gone? What the hell? Anyway, what do we have here? Okay. Subpoena. Pursuant to Oklahoma, you're hereby commanded to produce the following documents for the inspection and copying as provided herein. Subject no Nicole, September 4, 2023, death investigation. Right. Page 5. Instructions. In responding to the subpoena, Deuces Tecum, you are required to furnish all documents that are available to you that you may obtain by reasonable inquiry, including documents in the possession of your agents, attorneys, or others subject to your control. If you object to any document or category of documents, you must identify the objection and produce those materials to which no objection applies. Documents may be produced in hard copy or electronically. If produced electronically, you may transmit them securely. Please maintain originals and safeguard them from alteration or destruction. Documents must be organised as maintained in the ordinary course of business or labelled to correspond with the categories below. If any document is withheld based on privilege or protection, you must state the date and nature of the document, the author and recipient, the subject matter and/or the grounds for objection or privilege. Definitions. For purposes of the subpoena, the following words mean: you or your refers to the Oklahoma State Bureau, SBI, its divisions, officers, agents, employees, representatives. Document refers to any data compilation, writing record, communication, report, file, image, or recording, whether in paper, digital, audio, or video format. Communication includes all correspondence or exchanges of information by any means, including electronic or verbal. Documents requested. All documents relating to or concerning No Nichols, also known as No Presgrove, death, September 2023, Jefferson County, Oklahoma, including but not limited to 1. All investigative reports, incident summaries, and findings related to the death. So I'm guessing it's not related to past incidents or past deaths in which someone from the past is also caught up in this situation, like Caleb Newton, right? Incidents, accidents, maybe the side-by-side rollover event relating up to the death of Noah Presgrove. What other events or incidents were there? Can't really think on the spot. All photographs, audio recordings, video evidence collected or reviewed during the investigation. All witness statements, interview transcripts, and investigative notes in which we've not seen most of them, the exception being Caden Pressey when it was leaked. All medical examiner autopsy or toxicology reports obtained or reviewed by OSBI. I'm guessing extra details which we've never seen. All internal or interagency communications between OSBI and other law enforcement regarding the investigation. So their outlook on the case, their attitudes towards it, because on the outside, some of the general public are sceptical of LE, something they've been paid off with time. Some people think they're working for or with certain defendants within the case, and there's a conflict of interest and all kinds of mess, as what people have been suggesting, not me, but others with time. And what do we have here? 6. All forensic analysis, laboratory results or testing, including ballistic, fingerprint or DNA analysis. Well, we're not going to be ballistic, no firearms, in terms of Noah specifically. Fingerprint, of course, DNA. Yeah, that's interesting when it comes to fingerprint DNA analysis, because at least from what we're aware of on the surface level, if Noah Presgrove had been met with foul play and moved about, as some suggested, from Party House property to the highway, there wasn't any touch-based DNA found on Noah's body from the looks of it, at least to what we know of. So does that mean that no one ever moved him? There was no foul play? You could suggest that. Some could say, well, maybe people put on gloves to prevent prints, but who would have gloves with them at the party? Because of the season, the timing, the temperature. who's going to take gloves with them? That's just like a side thing I was thinking. 7, all geolocation data. There we go, some of the important stuff in the case which has been going on about over and over again on Facebook. The geolocation data, cell site location information, or geofencing data collected or analysed to work out where certain party goers were at different times, using their phones or just having them turned on, where they were when other events went on, timing of Noah's death. Well, we don't really know the true time of Noah's death, but the timing of when Noah walked away, what were other people doing, where were they, and if they've got their phones with them, did it show any movement in the same direction or patterns to Noah, who was the closest to Noah, and so on. Number 8, all reports or summaries of findings transmitted to any other agency, including Jefferson County Sheriff's Office or Oklahoma Highway Patrol. 9, any additional records or data specifically relating to SBI's investigation into the death of Noah Nichol, September 2023. Place of production, documents responsive to subpoena shall be forwarded to the following address: Godlove Law Firm. Date and time of production, on or before December 11, 2025. Deadline, personal appearance. Personal appearance is not necessary. Your employee or agent can deliver the materials. Failure to obey. Failure by any person without adequate excuse to obey the subpoena may be deemed a contempt of the court from which the subpoena issued. Hereof fail not under penalty of law, in order to allow objections to the production of the documents and things to be filed. You should not produce them until the date specified in the subpoena, and if an objection is filed, until the court rules on objection. Right. And then there was another page, and that was just to do with all the different contact information and phone numbers and emails, and I chose not to include that because I know YouTube will just go ballistic when it comes to guidelines. Besides that, a little summary here with credit to the Presgrove project once again. Under Oklahoma law, OSBI is now legally required to provide a complete list of materials including all investigative reports, incident summaries, findings, every written detail OSBI compiled regarding Noah's death, case notes, every photograph, audio recording and video recording in their possession. This includes the party videos, the scene photos. It's really important, to be honest. You know, the party videos, the ones which we've not seen, the ones which at some point was suggested that, well, when the thumbs are given up, green light, Warlight Ref can have them. It didn't happen, unfortunately. And what clips were them? I can only think of 2, and that was clear footage of Noah seen, such as Monday, wearing the white shorts after the side-by-side rollover, and possibly, I guess, after the shower, likely, when the white shorts. That was suggested kind of as a promise that that's what I would get a hold of, but people didn't follow through with that yet, and it's not possible now with what's going on here, of course. And then the other footage, supposedly, that was going to be handed over to me was of the post side-by-side rollover and supposed footage of Caden Pressey caught on camera with his pink knee brace helping roll the vehicle back over, when at that time he was supposed to be asleep, and even if he wasn't asleep, he shouldn't be engaging himself with something like that when he's supposed to be recovering and resting from surgery. Clips like that were suggested that they would be handed over to me, did not happen. It is what it is. Could have been very helpful as for an analysis at the time. But, you know, when it comes to the counter stuff to do Caden, like the snaps, 5:27, and then the other one was, what time was it? Was it 5:43? And it showed the likes, well, the 5:27 one showed the likes of Mikey Lair inside the party house in a bed, awake, when at that time, from what Caden said, was supposed to be at the highway with already knowing the news of Noah's death, but Mikey was at the house from the hard evidence and looked happy, unaware of the news of Noah's death because they hadn't been told at that point. Major conflict there, of course. That was provided, that was analysed and made public and handed to me in the first place, the first one to share it. It's a shame the other stuff wasn't too. It could have been very useful. But what can you do about it? However, besides those clips, the party videos of the shower, very important. Party footage of post side-by-side rollover from how Caden described it, what he was shown, just as important. And then maybe if it did exist, any footage of the porchway argument post disappearance of Noah before hearing about the death between Avery and Carter, the sisters arguing. That's been suggested supposedly in the background. And maybe some other miscellaneous party footage. Because look, this is the thing. We might have seen some bits already in photos people didn't think much of, wasn't too close to Noah's death, so it could be shown public. However, when I analysed it, I was still able to find meaning and depth behind it to tell a possible story, to try and work things out. The timing of stuff, such as when the glasses were lost, when the hat was lost, before and after photos over the days, when the body of Noah was washed, when writing appeared, then reappeared, then disappeared, etc. It was possible to do. There was material to work with, hard evidence to some extent. If only that could have been applied to other party footage, who knows where we would be now. Sometimes you can be a little bit ahead of time, as in the direction of where it's going to go. It might not be official yet, but you might be on the correct path, wavelength to what could come about in the future. But that's only if you've got the material to work with in the first place. And, there's a good chance that there is party footage which we've never seen before. As for the scene photos, that would be of the highway, which we've definitely not seen ourselves. But, there's been some people in the background claiming to have footage here or there, or have seen it, or have heard other people talking about parts. What was one of them? Was it Kathy Bingham at the property of Caden Pressey's mum, Alicia, talking about some footage or a live photo more so, and it showed some movement and some description in the background of, there's Noah's body on the floor in the background, there's another person walking by, there's a police guy, something along the lines of that. There's weird things, there was weird stuff in the background at times. We didn't see it clearly for ourselves, so it was a bit of a guessing game. But if everything and all is in the right place, as I mentioned here, and through the documents, hopefully it's handled correctly. And the other perspectives of the scene photos, when, the analysis of blood, just the visual learning aspect, sheets covered over Noah absorbing blood, a proper sheet, and then earlier a towel, it would be by Caden Pressey declaimed, or also one of the truckers, layers upon layers can absorb some blood, explains the loss of it and not being able to locate, but visually on the towel or the sheeting, it can come from there. Body-worn camera footage, so that'll be at the scene, but likely it would also be at the party house when calling round to, answer, give questions, to figure out what's going on. That body camera footage could be used to analyse the party goers and anyone else in between, and any family present at that time when police were there, like maybe Renee Millan, as in, just observing the body language and behaviour, even the tone of voice, the facial expressions. Is anyone hiding anything? Are they being truthful? Do they appear uncomfortable? You could go really deep into that. Any digital evidence provided to the OSBI, photos, videos, external, handed in. I do remember you had that time in the past where Michael Fazekaz mentioned that he reached out to his local, was it FBI office? in regard to the highway footage. It's dark and it supposedly showed a police guy and some volunteer firefighters of some sort and the removal of shorts, along the lines of that some time ago. Just giving you an example. Number 3, all witness statements, interviews, investigative notes, unedited, unfiltered, full statements, not summaries, and not edited out, like when you got partners in true crime, interviews with Caden Pressey, and there was jump cuts and things were cut out, and it's like trying to work out what was said, what was going to be said. Unfiltered, raw emotion, raw body language, raw thoughts, feelings expressed, in this case possible. That can go a long way too. Number 4, all autopsy, medical examiner and toxicology materials, all communications between OSBI and other agencies, including Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and Oklahoma Highway Patrol. All forensic testing and lab results, DNA, fingerprints, digital forensics, and any other testing. I think the whole DNA fingerprint aspect and theme is very important because we've not really touched upon it within the case because publicly we don't know enough about it, or at least my opinion on that. Any geolocation, cell site, geofencing, data SBI, as we already mentioned, all reports transmitted to any other agency, any OSBI internal records relating to specifically to Noah's death. So hopefully after looking at that material and the documents provided, it made some sense and some summaries along the way. To summarise it though, to the general public in learning from now on, we're probably not really going to hear or see too much unless some previous things are revealed. And as I said, it might create a bit of an echo chamber of broken records, but it might also encourage more people twiddling their thumbs and issues along the way. And to be honest, that's probably what's already happening as demonstrated on my channel on some of my older videos, because Justin Roy has come back onto my channel commenting. And for someone that may not like me, or more so my coverage and the direction that I have supposedly gone, normally when you don't like something, you're going to stay away from it. If you don't like a person, you won't interact with them. You don't like a situation, you may keep away from it. Unless there's exceptions where you got no choice, like you're in a workplace, you got to keep going there and being around the same people, faces, environment. No choice about it, no escape. This is YouTube. This is a online social media related platform where you got the choice to stick around, watch, or move on or go elsewhere. You're not held by restraints or restrictions. You got breathing room, you got other places, online families, not literal. So what's really going on there? As said, we're going to get into a bit more depth because some serious claims have been made about me whilst I've been doing my own thing, keeping my head down, covering other cases, keeping them alive, reviving them, etc. I'm still getting attacked in the background and people are still consuming my material and watching. People like to say to me as a response, I didn't come here to watch your video. I'm not watching it. I'm just commenting down below. Just know, the moment you click on a video, it's playing in the background. As you scroll up or scroll down to leave your comments down below, the video is playing, and just even by clicking on the video, it counts as a view. It counts as a percentage. It counts as a statistic. And beside that, beside the average viewer watch duration, which could be low because they didn't intend on watching, they just came to comment and complain, by leaving comments, that is a form of engagement. And YouTube really likes engagement. Certain measures and statistics, what they will use to push a video or to not push a video. So for the people that detest me and or the channel direction, but still keep coming back, why would people be helping another when they don't like them? it makes no sense. Or maybe it comes down to desperation, and the reality is there's not really anywhere else to go. And that's what happened in the Dylan Browns case. And it can be linked to hypersexual tension, sexual frustration in being unable to penetrate through to their needs and their wants. It links back to the Dylan Browns case when you had a so-called private investigator at the time. They went over to different channels to be interviewed, to interview. They made some channels grow, and then those other creators were forever grateful, but then also dependent on that so-called private investigator. It wasn't a healthy, good dynamic. It was entrapment, entanglement of webs. Once you get pulled in, you benefit short term, but then down the line, you're reliant on continued growth or extended growth, etc. But if you do your own thing or pull away, it's like some kind of invisible contract, and there are repercussions for it. But the original will then just cut all ties, pull the plug, and you're now left with nothing, and you can't sustain it. Dangerous, not healthy. Boost early on, given a leg up early on, but then dropped instantly afterwards, and you feel the full effect. I didn't want that for myself and other areas too, drama, conflict. I avoided it. And when they came towards me and said, "Oh, can you interview me? Can I come on your live stream? Can I come on your channel, Raf?" I wasn't going to allow some person out there to take over, because that's what they would do. They want mods to be appointed. You might be wondering, how does this link to Presgrove? I'll explain it shortly. But like mods, moderators, to be installed onto the channel, and they get to choose who, and I might not have much of a say, and I'm forced to do this and make changes, which causes alienation of certain viewers, populations, and it just causes a divide and conquer, and ultimately it screws you over. I didn't want any of that because I saw it happen elsewhere. In the Presgrove case, YouTube, or more so Facebook, moderators, sometimes power can get to their heads, their hands. They take too much direct action. Negative influences the community, the presence, the atmosphere, and even the original creator or person that set up in the first place. It just completely implodes on itself. Credibility lost, tension, trust issues, fragmented. I avoided all that in the past. I'm seeing it happen briefly in the Presgrove case too. But where does this tension come from? Well, someone who got their way. What they want, they got. But when they came to me, they didn't get what they wanted. Their needs were not met. Their wants were not satisfied. Their desires were never reached. It created frustration within them. It created some kind of weird, primal, instinctive, hypersexual tension and frustration. They really wanted it. They needed it. They wanted to be on the channel or be in the presence. They didn't get what they wanted. Throw the toys out the pram. Act toxic, negative, say, do things to try and negatively impact the other person, and then eventually realize, pull away, move on, target next person. It can apply to viewers as well. A love-hate relationship with content online and creators. You don't like something, but you still consume it. And there's deeper reasons behind it too. Could even link to the past. But before we get any further with that, and the response by Justin and somebody else as for crazy claims made about me, the other document which came about in recent time with Presgrove was to do with, I think, attorneys, two of which stepping on down from, I believe, Caleb and Jack Newton, as there was some kind of conflict of interest. I could be wrong. To do with the past, a past incident or accident, which involves either Jack or more so Caleb. Maybe, like, I've not seen it all myself because I'm just focusing on the latest stuff. This thing about attorneys stepping down and new ones being appointed, it can happen often. The only reason why it's more interesting this time around is because of a mention of conflict of interest. So the right actions taken there, but as for the backstory to the conflict, if it was to link back to any of the situations with Caleb Newton, wrong place or wrong time, around others that had died, whether that be the Warwick 2020 boating accident with that 7-year-old girl, or was it Rosa Newton's brother-in-law or something, who crashed into a vehicle that was parked up in an odd place, and somehow Caleb's been linked with that or present somehow. If it's got anything to do with those past events, for example, there's a conflict of interest with these attorneys that were appointed for those cases in the past for or against Caleb, I could understand. Not too sure if it links to that Daily Mail article which came about recently, in which you can't access it, you've got to pay for it, which is bollocks. But there was a summary by somebody else on TikTok to do with those past events in Caleb. So there might be a crossover. I'm not confident at this moment, just basing it off my memory. But, there's been a couple of documents court-related here and there, which is a good thing. It's all official. Very important. Honestly, for me, I like the more informal stuff, but related to the case, as in the hard evidence, the photos, party footage, in the early days when it was revealed or released, the raw stuff, not with all the extra explanations, not with all the official tags or thumbs up and all that, just the raw material, the raw statements, the raw audio, whatever it was, to listen for yourself, a form of visual learning, besides all the heavy text and writing and, the script, what you've got to read through. Everybody's different, but, there is movement, supposedly in the right direction, and there is still that push and energy and stamina from the family, which maybe you'd expect, but like when it came to the wrongful death lawsuit, and it was like suggested in one of the news articles that depending on how it goes, the likes of, was it Dalen, Keith Presgrove, was considering maybe pulling out or stepping back if it doesn't quite go the way it should. It felt like a last chance, what was it called, a Hail Mary, and if that doesn't work, then there's no hope. But at this moment in time, there's still a push and a fight, so there is hope, whichever way the outcome is. So yeah, it is a positive. In some ways a negative, maybe for people that are consuming and learning about the case, because things are very confidential, not going to be shared, all the important juicy stuff, lots behind closed doors, maybe released down the line, but that could be months, years on. You look at that with the Dylan Rounds case, that's exactly what happened there. Hundreds, maybe thousands of documents and media was finally revealed, but once the case was over and done with, which, awaiting time, depending on what position or role you're in, if you're covering, within reason, you're covering cases, you're some kind of creator online, or for some people out there, influencers, and you don't have that material in the moment, when you do finally get that material, as important and as good as it is, because the case is over, it's like, well, what do you do with it? Just do a video about it, but who's going to watch? And that's just being honest. You will get the waves of people who've never covered a case before, that have all the toys and all the material at hand to retell the story from start to finish as a form of edutainment, educational entertainment, narration. I'm not that type of person, really. Majority of true crime creators and beyond, mysteries, normally, and it won't be all, but quite a few, will tell the story of a case that's already happened from start to finish. Story time, put it that way. Whereas me, I'm doing it when it's active, ongoing, or cold case, but ongoing. Yeah, cover the story, the original part up to a certain point, a cliffhanger, and then work from there, theories and ideas as to what could have happened, working towards that. I think that's more important than just retelling a whole story when all the evidence and material is given to you on a plate like that. You work with it in the trenches and you push forwards in the moment, live and raw. You can feel more, you can pick up on more and see it in different lights. And then when it reaches the head, you can reflect back from start, middle to end and you were a part of it. And it doesn't just have to be creators, it's viewers as well. But yeah, just my thoughts there. As for any other Nerd Presgrove related videos, theories and ideas, ultimately I think that would have to be complemented with additional material and photos, and not seen that since. To be honest, the last one that was done with Nerd Presgrove, which was probably a few weeks ago in fairness actually, was the injuries or marks to Noah's arm or bicep area as to what could have caused that, maybe when going past vegetation, scrapes against sharpness, twigs, branches, maybe going through the woodland area, maybe going to the Red River and jumping in the water and coming and going over the days, as what BBC said. Things like that. That was the last video that I did. There might have been some other details mentioned too. But yeah, there's movement. But speaking of which, whilst there is movement, there's also the other problematic stuff. And if we just go to one of my older videos from probably, maybe it's 1 year ago now, I believe it was in the earlier days, to do with Justin Roy, Partisan True Crime, at a time when everything was A-OK and fine, I believe, because I was supposedly on the right side, the light side, before I transitioned over to the dark side. Yeah, that all over again. Let's check the latest comments and responses. Here we are. So the first comment thread appears to be positive, and that was 1 year ago by a person called C. Henderson, who, can I really remember who they are? I think so, with the grey profile picture, and to my knowledge, I thought everything was okay. But then again, it was the same situation with the Boss Babe on Reddit, how they appeared there compared to how they appeared on my YouTube channel. Can't remember their name. Was it Susan Edenfield or something? It's hard to remember all names. But, you know, there are sudden switches and changes in human behaviour. We'll just read the original context. Henderson said, Warlight Raf, wow, there is so much important information in this video that I'm going to watch it again. I couldn't take in everything all at once. You, without a doubt, bring more important and relevant information to the table than anyone. Excellent and exceptional work you've done here that won't be found anywhere else. I hope you know how much you're appreciated. Just as soon as I can afford to, I'm going to start supporting your channel financially. You put so much into your videos, and it's just another way to say thank you and show appreciation for you and all the hard work you put in. Thank you. When you see a comment like this, really positive. You may not always expect it, but it's really positive. I'm surprised I didn't heart the comment at the time, but I don't think I responded back to all comments, back then, because I was doing other stuff. But yeah, it was all positive to see this. And, not that you expect it, but when people start saying they want to give back or support financially or just to say a thank you, it's more than what you could imagine. It's extremely positive. I mean, not to mention any names because, people do it out of privacy and all that. But, in the Noah Presgrove case, hands down. And no, I'm not talking about the dark side. I'm talking about any side. I'm talking about anyone in this case community that has supported the channel, whether that be channel membership or through the live chat, the super thanks or the super stickers, or externally elsewhere, like the PayPal stuff. Heavily appreciated. It's very good of people to do that, of course. And in fairness, just being honest, it helps a lot, and positively speaking. But, whilst you do get that, you can get changes in behaviour along the way, and it can make the waters a little murky as in trying to understand what's gone wrong, because everything seems fine. But 2 days ago, Justin Roy decided to respond back. So a comment from 1 year ago of somebody praising me, Justin wanted to basically say that, yeah, Warlight Ref isn't that anymore. Justin said, well, Warlight Ref used to, until certain people paid him off to cover up the BS in the case, and tried to point it away from what really happened on purpose. and Warlight Ref totally fell right into it. He also got played by posting DM messages out of context by very manipulative, vindictive people. As we know, one of Justin's favourite words is vindictive, and it's probably on his bingo card. Nobody wonders why they infiltrated all the pages and podcasts with fake accounts and threatened anyone that thinks foul play with lawsuits. What innocent people act this way? Also, why doesn't Warlight Ref, or they cover the certain people that are clearly running from the wrongful death lawsuit, why run it if you truly are innocent? So the thing is, when Justin talks about using things out of context, well, Justin did that himself when it came to either him or someone handing him a screenshot transcript of one of my previous videos in the past, where I basically was talking about what people on Reddit were saying about Melissa LeQuay getting in trouble with police, being an advocate for Noah Presgrove, and from what other people said, being a part of the army page. That turned out to not be true. But at the time, I was just reading what other people were saying, and my response at the time, word for word, was, I don't know if I can believe in that. Is there any hard evidence or proof to suggest or to show that they were a part of the page? For some reason, Justin and other people failed to listen into that, and Justin got hold of a transcript from my YouTube channel video, and it didn't show the full conversation of what I was saying. So it was made out to look like I was stating it and I was attacking the page when I wasn't. I quickly, rapidly followed it up with a response video with the full transcript of what I actually said, all in the same place, on the same, page, platform. It's all there. It was a massive misunderstanding by massive incompetent people. So Justin isn't in a position to be talking about out of context stuff when he's done it himself, direct or indirect. But C. Henderson did respond back all of a sudden. So from 1 year ago of praising me and being positive, now Henderson says to Justin, I couldn't agree with you more, Justin. I left this comment around a year ago. Well, it's pretty obvious, Henderson. You don't have to say when you left it, because if you go back to your original comment, it literally says 1 year ago. So, but besides that, Henderson says, and not long afterwards, I left this channel completely. I had been a very appreciative supporter of the work that Warlight Ref was putting in on Noah's case. I couldn't support his channel financially at the time, as I'm a heart, liver, and kidney failure patient. I tried to show support by leaving encouraging and thankful comments, and in return for my kindness, Warlight Ref made an entire video picking out comments that I had made in kindness and support on his channel, and he mocked me and attempted to belittle me. He put time and effort into trying to hurt me, and at the time it did hurt, as I thought that Warlight Ref was my friend. Oh, a friend. I thought, yeah, is this some kind of parasocial relationship which I wasn't aware of? Clearly he was not. Warlight Ref had also tried to have other people attack me in the live chat right before his video devoted to mocking me. A couple of kind people who subscribed to his channel went out of their way to explain why he did what he did to me. It was all absolute stupidity and jealousy involving Warlight Ref and his girlfriend. Right, let's just make one thing extremely crystal clear. Warlight Ref and his girlfriend, at the time, because I'm just trying to think back to 2024. No offense, I'm just trying to remember 2024, which month exactly? Because this is like 1 year plus ago, the early days of Justin Roy and his interview of Partners in True Crime, and I did not have a girlfriend then, and even before that I never had a girlfriend ever. So what's going on here? So this person is claiming that me and them, because I don't know what gender they are, me and them were close friends, even though I never communicated with them to my knowledge and memory, and not on a close level. And this person's also claiming about me having a girlfriend at the time. There's only one thing that I could think of, and I'll keep it brief. But I don't remember Henderson being involved. At a time of when a person that I knew of, not ultimately close to, back then relatively speaking, but they were, letting their hair down, being themselves, me doing the same thing, and a few people turned nasty and was calling the other person out. And all I did was, well, if you're going to attack or critique them, they don't deserve it. I'm the channel owner. I'm the one that acts the same way. So, critique me, call me out. As for who it was, I think it was Beth Carr accusing another person that I knew of for being drunk or taking drugs, just because we're being lighthearted in the chat and it wasn't that serious or deep, but it was turned into something that it's not really. Beth Carr criticising. Who was the other person? There was like 2 or 3, but Henderson was never involved in any of that. So, this is like the really early days. I just did not have a girlfriend and never had done before that, all the years I've been alive. So I really don't understand what's going on here. But then again, there have been times where people have associated and claimed that they're married to me. Is this the Vanessa Salazar situation, I wonder? Anyway, we can go into a bit more depth later or so. But let's just continue on. So there was some jealousy involving Warlight Raph and his girlfriend. And the jealousy part, what? I had an imaginary girlfriend and there was some jealousy going on with other people about. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, that's when I saw him for the kind of person he really is. I left his channel, never came back. The only person I told about what he'd done to me is my husband. I'll be honest with you, this is starting to sound like some domestic abuse case or something, and because I am a white male, then it instantly makes me a villain in today's world. Oh boy. Anyway, I had him watch the video and he agreed that it was a personal attack on me. Right, I'm going to be honest with you. If you're going to get your husband involved, someone that is probably devoted to you, married as well, who will think and see the best within you, which is somewhat expected, and that's what you would hope for, because if you're in a relationship, you look out for one another, you care for one another, there's a deep-rooted connection emotionally and beyond, right? Physically, but more so emotionally, mentally. If you're going to get a loved one involved for their point of view, of course they're going to see an external thing as an attack, even if it's not. Because if someone that you love and care about feels hurt or is hurt by something else, and that person you love or care, you're naturally, instinctively going to trust and believe them before you trust a stranger, whatever that situation is. The person you know and love could truly be in the wrong, but you're going to choose them over a stranger because of the emotional biasness. This really is disappointing to see, but it's also very natural to happen within evolutionary human behaviour, whether it be friends, family members, or partners. Deep-rooted emotions, you're going to support and care and hold somebody up when they are low, falling, drowning. But what if the so-called sufferer has misunderstood something, or they're making it up? The other partner is still going to believe in them as the truth, just because of that emotional biasness. Very weird, this situation. So what else do we have? I never said another word to Warlight Ref, and I've never talked badly about him to anyone else or tried to hurt his channel in any way. Okay? The day before the video mocking me was posted, I had told my husband that I wished I could get Warlight Ref a new camera to film with, as he needed one. I don't think I did. I think, well, if we're talking about November 2024, was that around the time of when I was talking about the new iPhone? This is all publicly talked about in the past, as in any support to the channel goes towards a new upgrade, so then I can use it for making more videos and expanding. If that's what it's been referred to here, I can understand that. But I think with the iPhone, it was coming out, what was it, October or November, but then it was heavily delayed because it was impossible to find. It was always out of stock. It was in John Lewis, but it was like, they said it was available, then they said it wasn't. Mind games played. It was available, pick up in Liverpool or something, and it's like, oh my God, if I have to drag my body down to Liverpool, then I will, but it wasn't needed in the end. This is just backstory, okay? It's been talked about already. But, you know, beside that, at the time, did I really need a new camera? I wasn't really aware of specifically for a camera. There's a total upgrade in other areas, yeah. But, you know, this is early days. This might even be before the iPhone situation. Anyway, and the next day, well, we know what happened. I'm much more careful who I call my friends now. So at one point, C. Henderson saw me, Warlight Ref, as their friend. Yet, based on their username, I don't remember ever communicating with them privately or elsewhere. This comes across as a parasocial relationship. I'm also much more careful about who I leave comments of encouragement for, as you never know who will take it the wrong way. I'm sorry for the pain that you've been caused, Justin. The supposed pain that Warlight Ref has caused Justin Roy somehow. Please know that you're not alone in that. And please know that I no longer support this person or Warlight Ref's channel in any way. He also never had the decency to apologise for what he did to me. That speaks volumes about the kind of person he is and his character. It's really sad, actually. There's a lot of words, but there's no hard evidence. That's a bit of a problem. Justin's response, wow, I never saw that video. Maybe because the video doesn't exist, or maybe because the so-called video somehow has been heavily twisted or heavily misunderstood. Because based on C. Henderson's original comment, which was very positive, there would be absolutely no reason for me to go after them or call them out. The only other possibility would be if there was a change in behaviour on a different channel, video, comment elsewhere. We'll look into that a bit later. Justin says, Warlight Ref, what a piece of shit. I'm glad he finally moved on from this case. Justin, you and your big gob. Look what you have done right now. Warlight Ref covering the Nerd Presgrove case, preferably for bigger reasons besides this, as in those court documents. Right? Oh, Justin. Warlight Ref has done nothing but made a mockery of Noah's death. Nothing but a mockery. Exactly what Jan Fiorillo said about me. Exactly what Pam Feldman Garrison said about me, individuals. Basically, at the time of when I hadn't covered it from the dark side, Justin was giving me compliments. But because I became more holistic and balanced, Justin didn't like that. And now just says negatives about me. This is very reckless, unstable behaviour, lacking reasoning ability and an emotional bias, whether it be a friendship, between colleagues, and more so, in other cases in life, a relationship. Somehow you neglect and rule out all the positive times and happy moments back then, and all you do is focus on the negatives, and that is all, which consumes your general outlook of a said individual, So anything you recall is negative and only negative, and that's the be-all and end-all. And yet some months, years back, their outlook would have been more positive, but now it's just negative. But the positives, which did stand in place relative at the time, are no longer acknowledged or accepted. So it really is heavily emotionally shifted, meaning it's heavily emotionally biased, and there is a conflict of interest in what Justin says in regard to Warlike Ref. Once again, it's not a good look. I've seen Warlike Ref on other podcasts begging people to come watch his coverage of the Noah case. Right. What Justin means by that is when other creators who are not as informed on the case and they don't know of the extensive material and coverage that I have done single-handedly and also been the catalyst and the turning point, the needle mover when it comes to revealing material never seen before, I spread awareness on other channels. And some people do take that into mind and learn that way. It's about learning and spreading awareness. That's all I did. Justin has interpreted it as begging. But there is no begging language. There is no acts of desperation or anything like that. There's no emotional manipulation or emotional blackmail. It's simply, hi there, yes, this case is interesting. I've covered it myself. Over 300, 400 plus videos, including never seen before material. That's it. That's how I introduce myself. Does that come across as begging? What would come across as begging as if you were saying, hi everyone, I really need people to watch my videos because it's just not working out. Can you please come now because I'm really desperate. I'm going to cry anytime soon. Please. That is begging and a form of desperation. None of that is shown in my comments elsewhere. Justin is turning the words to suit his frustration, disgruntledness towards Warlike Ref. It's not natural behaviour. Okay? The wording has been heavily adapted and not for the right reasons. Beside that, Justin said, but I have advised several of them not to. Wow. Talk about obsessive behaviour. Warlike Ref tries to spread awareness to other creators that aren't as informed on the case. And Justin goes around like a desperate, obsessed male trying to get those said individuals to just not follow it up. Like negative review bombing. How low will Justin go, really? That is really pathetic, but it is where it is. Justin says, I did that as Warlike Ref became biased and started working for tips, per se. He actually got manipulated real bad, don't even know it, lost a lot of subscribers because of it. I mean, how incompetent can you get? How does Justin Roy know whether I've lost or gained subscribers? How? Justin doesn't have access to my statistics on YouTube. And as for external websites out there, they don't give true measurements. I know exactly where my statistics are. Within the last month or so, I gained 300 subscribers, which is probably a personal best, which normally would be regarded as very good growth. And that's from doing other stuff as well in between. But at the time of when covering Noah Presgrove, I was always, and I have always been, gaining more subscribers than losing subscribers. That's a fact. And why is it a fact? Because the statistics don't lie, and I've seen them with my own eyes. Of course, people could say, well, you're going to defend your own channel. So there is a form of biasness there. From an external outlook, that's very understandable to say. But, you know, I'm only reading with what I've seen myself. If it was negative, I'd tell you. I mean, some examples can be videos that I did in the past, As for subscribers lost on a video, it said -1, -4, -3. Low numbers. But as for subscribers gained, +10, +11, +5. But other people aren't going to be able to see it and never will. You have to be signed in to my channel to go into the YouTube studio mode to access the statistics. And if you don't have access to that, then you have no clue what you're talking about. Just like how I have no clue how other channels are performing out there. So Justin is in absolutely no position to be talking about whether subscribers have been lost or gained. But this wouldn't surprise me if it comes across as an influence by the likes of that teapot individual. What was their name called? Can't really remember them, so hopefully they're not that relevant. Was it Lisa? Lisa with the red teapot profile picture that claimed that because of the direction Warlight Ref was going, he's thrown it all down the drain, he's lost all the supporters and the subscribers, and he's kind of damaged his channel and all of that. I do find it interesting how a lot of people like speaking on behalf of me. As for myself, as for my channel, as for anything else in between, people do like talking about me, mostly in a negative way. Besides that, Justin says, Warlight Ref's live chats were basically mean girl attack chats anyway. All of them need to go read the wrongful death lawsuit again. Lawyers are not going to risk their reputation and credibility for a rumour or line. Definitely not do it for free. Think about that. But again, take care, and I'm sorry for what happened to you. So C. Henderson has claimed a lot without showing any proof or evidence in the moment, and Justin Roy just goes along with it and believes. You know, normally in a situation where heavy claims are made, you will listen, you will show respect, but you will not comply or go along. No, you may comply, but you won't internalize it. And why? Because you got to remain balanced. The moment you're emotionally connected or feel for someone, you're probably going to listen and believe in them, even when they don't have any evidence to back it up. And that's a dangerous game to play. And if you're in certain roles or authorities, you cannot be doing that, as it's unprofessional. As for this situation, it's quite casual, so no laws are broken. But just in terms of morals, in terms of outlooks, Justin is heavily siding with C. Henderson, even when no evidence is provided. Ultimately, because Justin can't stand Warlight Ref for certain reasons. So when anyone else speaks up badly about Warlight Ref, even when no evidence is provided, because there is a common ground between one individual and Justin in disliking Warlight Ref, there's no need for evidence. Justin is easily convinced without it and just goes along. Oh boy. You know, Justin talks about, Warlight Ref being manipulated and controlled and being played about. Well, wasn't it Justin Roy that supposedly got screwed over in the past and also got screwed over or supposedly stabbed in the back by George Choden? So is Justin really in a position to be going on critiquing another person when Justin himself could be considered somewhat naive and vulnerable in the first place? What else do we have here? Final comment by C. Henderson to Justin. Thank you so very much, Justin. That means a lot to me. And I'm truly so sorry for the hurt that you've been caused. I know in my heart that you're a good man. You loved Noah as if he was your child. I know that people can be so cruel, and so many have tried to discredit you for seeking justice for Noah. I've prayed many times about this case, and I prayed for you when you were under attack. I don't know you personally, but I know your intentions have been nothing but honourable and honest. You just keep on speaking the truth and shedding light on the darkness, and I'll be keeping you in my prayers. And in all honesty, I don't have any hard feelings towards Warlight Ref. I don't doubt that he was taken advantage of. Right, so in the past I was labelled as a trafficker. Now it's been suggested that Warlight Ref is a vulnerable, innocent young little boy that's been taken advantage of in more ways than others. Wow. That's slightly exaggerated, just so you know. Well, a few responses to say, in fairness. Anyway, and I'm certain that we know who did it. I hope that Warlight Raff learns from it and can get his life and channel back on track. Get my life back on track. What does that mean exactly? I thought this was just a YouTube problem. I thought this was an online social media supposed problem. Why would one be talking about life when one wouldn't know about it? How unusual. You stay safe out there, Justin, and I'm keeping you in my prayers. God bless you and keep always your friend, Carly. So what did we learn from that? Basically, a lot of words emotionally written up, which can come across as heartfelt, and you can feel for them under the circumstances, what they've gone through or supposedly been put through. And if you're a stranger listening in for the very first time, you might believe in them and think, oh no, how could someone do that to you? When you look back at the original comment, that's all positive. And I myself wonder, how could Warlight Raff possibly do that to that individual? And then I think back, based on my memory, video-wise, there wasn't any coordinated attacks. There was never nor a need to coordinate viewers and other people to go out and respond or attack them. There'd be no need. The only times when suggestions have been made is when guidelines have been broken, specifically on YouTube elsewhere. I've been caught up in it. I've spread awareness to explain the situation. Then I said, act within reason and don't go over the top. And if you truly believe guidelines are broken, consider following up on that with the other individuals out there. That's basically it. In terms of ever responding back to people in general, it can come across as defensive and overkill. But it depends what the original person did and said in the first place. I will defend myself because I'm allowed to, and it's my channel, and it's important to do so, because if not, snowball effect, it will build and build and build and get worse with time, and people who are ill-informed or just don't know what to believe, they may fall for it, and then it will obviously have a negative impact on myself. Just like how people do false rape claims. There's genuine people out there that report it in. They may get justice, they may not. They may be believed in, they may not be believed in, because of the other prats that lie and fake it. So like in a situation like this, about mocking or being nasty, there'd be no need to do that. In terms of being light-hearted, in terms of defending myself, if the initial person changed in behaviour, did something bad, had a go, insulted, attacked, questioned, and so on, within reason, within a level of appropriateness, there would be a response. But as for C. Henderson, I don't really remember seeing too much of them, nor really anything negative. I don't know if they go by any other usernames elsewhere on other platforms. There have been some occasions where other people have appeared nice on YouTube towards me, but then in the background on other platforms they've been quite nasty and dark. So naturally I've responded back and said what I needed to say and do. There have been some times where some people have demanded an answer in a rude way, so I will respond back accordingly, whether they like it or not. There's been times where people have tried setting the record straight or giving out facts which aren't facts in a very reckless way, so I've responded back accordingly. I don't know if any of that overlaps with C. Henderson, but I personally don't remember ever attacking them. There would be no need. And I don't see any other humans or other people bringing it up. It's a lot of words at the end of the day, but no evidence provided. So one of those situations. But of course, if you already dislike Warlight Raff, then naturally you're going to fall in line and just believe and trust what anyone says that is against Warlight Raff as a yes man and a yes woman. It's like an emotional bias consensus. So for the same people talking about biasness and biasness, they're being biased themselves in terms of how they respond and react. Justin Roy has the cheek to call me out for being biased at a time of when I'm most holistic and open to both sides and perspectives. And in not so much recent time, but the last time I was covering the Noah Presgrove case, I was doing videos on murder, the theories around murder, during and after the wrongful death lawsuit, yet Justin didn't choose to watch those videos. He only chooses to watch the videos which seem to portray it one-sided, so then he can say, well, look, here it is, it's only one-sided. Look at the other videos, your mind will change. But Justin is set in his ways at times. If he likes something, he likes something. If he dislikes something, he dislikes something, but he doesn't acknowledge the positives, right? Justin praised me in the past, but nowadays doesn't, because his outlook has changed negatively of me. So all the positives in the early days are gone, but they're still as a fact, or not maybe a fact, but as an actual event milestone, which was relevant at the time, it's been like covered. Emotional biasness, overly emotional. I know some people make jokes, not me. Other people make jokes. Maybe it's that time of the month. Well, we're dealing with Justin, who is a male, or supposedly is. So you can't put that argument across. I just think there's a lot of overly emotional, unstable, erratic people in this case community, and that's why we get these situations like what we are. And the situation with C. Henderson showing something, whatever it is, to her husband, I mean, it's just a recipe for disaster and biasness. You are supposedly hurt, you reach out to someone that you're familiar with and they're very close to you. Whatever you say or do, especially if they're devoted to you by marriage, they are obviously going to listen. They're obviously going to believe you, even if it turned out to be a lie and a person manipulated it all themselves to make themselves look like a victim. The husband or the wife, depending on the roles, unconditionally are going to listen, support, and understand. Why? Why so often do I have to come across as some marriage counsellor when I've never been married? Why do I have to come across as some relationship expert when I've literally got really no experience whatsoever? I know deep down inside, in these certain moments, I might not be in a position to be talking, but something has to be said due to the ridiculousness of it, the idiocracy of it. I don't have to experience to know. If I value or see the importance behind it in the first place, that can be enough. And in these situations, and based on common sense, if you're going to show something to someone that you know, there's going to be a biased emotional connection in the first place. It's inevitable that a person could listen or just say yes, even if it's not entirely the truth. Show whatever to a stranger, and that stranger who doesn't know anything about Warlike Wrath, and then see how they react then. This whole so-called video out there somewhere, where is it? Where is it ultimately? And depending if the video has a direct response, was there a context? Because there would have to be a context. It's not on the offensive, it's more the defensive, because normally I am attacked, normally false claims are made, normally some dodgy behaviour by someone, so then a response needs to be done to control everything and keep it somewhat calm so it doesn't escalate. There seems to be a lot of context lacking and a bit all over the place, but the whole mention of some girlfriend situation, is this all linking back to the false claims of the Vanessa Salazar situation? The false claims in which Vanessa Salazar said that she is married to me, and then there was another person as well that claimed to be married to me, and then there was another time in the past in the Dylan Rounds case, someone called Stoney that claimed to be married to me. So supposedly I've been married 3 times. I've been accused of wearing a fake wig, fake eyeliner, or eyelashes, as what Pam Feldman Garrison may have said, possibly. Fake lipstick. I've got 44D bra, or, well, yeah, where you can't see yourself. You don't deserve to. But yeah, I've been accused of being a trafficker. Some person accused me of being a school shooter. Another person accused me of being a rapist. I mean, it's an endless line, and it's not exactly for the right reasons. And of course, all these labels which are supposedly associated with me, if anyone heard them for the very first time, they would probably be very put off by it and think, oh, this person's very bad. Where's the context? Where's the evidence? I think if I was a female in this case community, I probably, in some ways, not in all, but in some ways, I would be better off in terms of treatment, in terms of less labels given, in regard to certain situations. Not all, I'm aware, but yeah, it's very weird what's going on, especially all this time afterwards. And as I said, when it comes to the hypertension, the sexual tension, the sexual frustration, people can't, stay away. You hate something, but you love it at the same time. That's what it seems to come across as. You don't like a channel, you don't like a person, so you back off, you distance yourself, but then you find yourself keep coming back, consuming, watching and commenting, and that's what Justin does, that's what some other people do. Follow through with your words and meet them with your actions, but doesn't happen. It's a bit embarrassing to see. I don't know why some people continue to be statistics when they don't want to be that, but they still choose to do that. It's weird. But if there's not really much coverage going on elsewhere, where else do they have to go? Yeah, if there's no more room in the stable or elsewhere, then where else do you go? You find yourself returning back to the same place. You could even compare it. You could even compare it to a domestic situation where you could be in a household, you could be around someone or some people, you've got nowhere else to go, supposedly. You might be treated badly or something might be toxic or bad in that current environment, but where else do you go? Where do you run to? You find yourself keep coming back because you haven't got a choice, because you just don't know yourself. Very weird situation. No one's forced to watch, no one's forced to stay. But maybe some people in their own mind are imprisoned and weighted down, but they can't help but keep coming back, that they're addicted to me or addicted to my voice or addicted to the channel. There is something that draws them back, a magnetizing effect. Their heart pulls one way, their mind pulls another, but they still find themselves present. They could say, oh, Warlight Raph, he's such a twat. He's such a bastard, you know. His face, his expressions, the way he talks. He really is such a condescending prick. He's such an incompetent, stupid waste of space that needs to die. But you know what? I'm still here. For what reason exactly? Only they will know. If they can't express it, they will feel it within. I'm very disappointed. But beside that, you see the state of things and where it's heading. And with the official stuff going quiet and kind of closed behind doors, it opens up for the community, for people twiddling their thumbs and whining and complaining and false claims being made and so on. It's crazy. I mean, when people like to do speaking or talking on behalf of somebody else, they get a buzz, a feeling, a psychological rush from it. They could explain why some people were making false claims claiming to be married to me when they never were, and it never was the case. And like with Vanessa Salazar, when they were supposedly alive, claiming that they were married to me. They were doing the talking, I wasn't. Feeling as if you're associated with someone because you benefit from it or you gain a feeling from it, and that's why you're reinforced to do it, even though it's not rational or it's not, arguably speaking, normal. And what does that do for the other person on the receiving end? A load of questions. I think some of that may link to this whole weird girlfriend situation, what C. Henderson was referring to. Who exactly? I don't know. Very weird. Very. With that being said, my name's Warlight Raph. Thanks for watching, and goodbye, and good night for now.